Okay, we're recording here. This is a recording about millennials, and the term millennials are 25 to 35. And in California, if you went to USC or UCLA or even a state school, you've got a lot of debt. And these people can't buy houses. So we're talking with Terry, who's a mortgage expert. What can you talk about millennials and how can they get houses using creative terms like seller financing, Terry? What can you do to help these people?
Thanks for having me, Brian, on this call. And we were just talking about an article on MarketWatch that said that millennials aren't entering into the market the way previous sectors of young people used to, and it's true. And really, I think I have 4 kids, and they range from 17 to 32. And I consider myself an expert on this part of it because I truly believe in real estate and owning it, and I've trained my kids for the American dream, and we've bought and sold many homes, and my kids have experienced that with us. And we've above all, we've taught all of our kids about finance and about financial planning, and now I see the struggles. I have a 32-year-old daughter that she's a nurse. Her husband is an attorney. They have no kids yet. They postponed, like that article says, having children. Mm-hmm. And they can't afford a mortgage with plus $150,000 in student loan debt for her husband, graduate school, student loans.
I think another way to phrase it is they can't qualify for the mortgage, but they can pay the mortgage payment, and they could probably get the down payment down on seller financing. They just can't jump through all the hoops with the new laws with 43% debt to earnings. That has really put a cramp into, a stranglehold on the recovery is what that article is all about, that millennials aren't stepping up into first home buyers because they can't get through this 43% window. Now, here's another article. I was looking at this mortgage broker that was complaining that he had this wonderful applicant for a mortgage, and she had 20 years on the job. She had 20% down, but her debt-to-earnings ratio was around 45%. Just missed, that just missed thing. And they can't get the mortgage with a big down payment like that. Isn't that ridiculous?
But it totally is, and that goes to show you that the rules and the laws, banks won't bend at all. It's cut and dry, and it's 43 or nothing. Yep. And it goes beyond that. Even on a credit report, it's if you have a ticket or let's say a parking ticket that's gone to your credit report, mm-hmm. you can't get a loan, and it's ridiculous. You've got a source over $500 that runs through your bank account, and let's say you get don't get me started.
I know.
Seller financing is the answer.
Sure. Well, what we want to do is people that are listening to this recording, let's say that they were a parent of a child that was in their 20s, late 20s, early 30s that had a lot of student loan debt. What would be the first step for them to be able to buy a house on seller financing? If they could, let's say, put down 10% and they had the amount of money per month on a mortgage, but they just couldn't qualify through traditional means, what could that parent do to help that child?
Let me give you an example, because I have also a 27-year-old that I've helped out. Okay. So my 27-year-old, she went to school back east to close to an Ivy League school, and graduated. She's 27 now. She passed her CPA exam. She's working in New York for a Fortune 500 company, and she can't afford a home in New York, even under FHA. think her maximum mortgage amount is $200,000. Now, as a parent, I will not co-sign for a student loan because with a child, it's their debt, and I can choose to help them later, but I don't want to be on that debt because I feel like that's their life, and if they don't make it through school, they've still got that burden, and you can't bankruptcy out of student loan debt. So that's our own family planning situation. However, what we did was we went back to her college town where she graduated, and we started looking at homes around the campus because she realized that they're older homes, and you can have 5 students, or they're 5-bedroom homes, and you can have, the prices are really low. They're like $150 or less.
Right.
And you can get a 20% cash flow off of student housing close to this campus. And she played softball there, so she has the source for the rentals. And so we made an offer on a house that took over the existing loan, and with about 15% down, and it cash flows like a 20% cash flow, and that's her way to pay off her student loan through me helping her invest in real estate. And so instead of paying for it, instead of being obligated to the debt, I'm teaching my kids to own and invest in real estate and refinance out of it once they can, to handle the cash flow that it's going to take to pay off that $80,000 that she has in student loan debt.
What you just gave her was a cash machine, is what you did.
Yes.
You created a cash machine to get her out of student loan debt faster. You saved her a lot of interest on that student loan by getting it paid quickly. You gave her some stress relief that she's not got this ball and chain on her ankle, and she could actually move out of that area and get a property manager and still have the cash machine. There's all sorts of things you gave her. My brother went to Vassar in upstate New York, Poughkeepsie, and my sister went to Sarah Lawrence down in Bronxville. Where'd your daughter go to?
She went to Lehigh in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And played a sport there, got a great degree, and decided to stay in New York area and back east. So when we went back there a couple weeks ago, she said, "Daddy, I want to invest in real estate. I can't own a home yet in New York. I don't qualify. However, let's do this." And so we went and looked at property, and that's what we're doing. And she gets it.
What a great idea. There's a lot of student housing investors out there. And if you're let's say that you're in a college town and you're an agent, you could have a whole cottage industry where you have a list of all the undergrads, and you contact all their parents, and it says, why don't you make some money while your child is going to school? Why don't you help your child get their student loan debt down by getting them an investment property in their name? Why don't you get them on the property ladder today so that when they do step out into the real world, they can go get a house? So, what a wonderful kind of business plan for agents and real estate investors that could, if they are anchored in a college town and they know it really well, they could use that basic plan that you just put and use it as a cookie cutter, couldn't they?
Yeah, actually, my kids, we live in San Diego, and we're close to three colleges here, UCSD, USD, and San Diego State. And we actually own property in Mission Beach, and that was their education. That's why Brooke said, Daddy, let's go to Lehigh and do what you guys did in San Diego, because she sees that it can work, and it does work. And we've educated them. That's something that parents don't do, first of all, is educate their kids. It's like their personal finances are their thing, and it's like none of your business. And my parents were the same way. And and we took it upon, my wife and I took it upon us to educate our kids, to know what our financial problems are, because we're in real estate and we don't have a regular paycheck, and know, when the economy changes, we have to find another way to make a living, or another way to, the shift, the Gary Keller shift book, you have to find a way to get back on the saddle again, because you just fell off. And our kids, we educated them through that, and I think they're going to be better for that. And so as a parent, there's that. As a child, or as a millennial, I think we need to market to them and teach them. We didn't educate them either in school or as parents how to be financially successful in life.
No.
And really, now it's my job, or it's our job, through investors or however we can. I really feel passionate about this subject. So.
Well, here's an ancillary part. If you can get them even younger, like 15, 16, there's a book called Rich Kid, Smart Kid by Robert Kiyosaki, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad fame. And they talk about what's a balance sheet, what's an asset, what's a liability, and just very, very basic terms. And financial literacy in this country, as far as what's a mortgage, what's a retirement plan, what's a credit rating, what's debt-to-income ratio, all the basics that you need to know, they aren't taught in high school. They aren't taught at the kitchen table. Rule of 72, what's that? All the very, very basic things. So, financial literacy, I think, is a really important thing. And just as an aside, one of my successful students in upstate New York, up by Rochester, he went to the boys club with Rich Kid, Smart Kid, and he taught the kids that were twiddling their thumbs, just shooting hoops, about the basics of finance. And he also gave a donation for every We Buy Houses house that he bought to the boys club. And he got leads through shopkeepers in Rochester that loved the boys club, and they gave him like a $500 donation to the boys club. So there's all sorts of ways you can marry in financial literacy with, helping your backyard understand the basics of real estate and real estate investment. So just boil this thing down. We'll have a link under this video of this article we're talking about at MarketWatch. But if you're a millennial or a parent of a millennial, how can we help them get their first property? What are the steps? How would you advise them to do that?
Well, I would have to say anything's possible in real estate. First of all, learn. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Read how money works. Read how internal rate of return works. Return on investment, all those things. And then I would have to say, you can own a home today if you have a job and a down payment. And there's ways, and I owned my first home at 18. And there's ways that you can do it without going to the bank and having the bank turn you down. Mm-hmm. And you can get parents, you can get mentors, there's just, if you have the desire and the want, and you can go, you can achieve your goals. And if that's owning a house and gathering wealth and experiencing how money works and leverage, it's possible. Don't let a bank tell you don't qualify, because banks are idiots.
Well, they have a very narrow scope these days with the new laws. What I usually tell my real estate investors or my FSBOs or my landlords, if they want to market their house on seller financing and help a buyer buy the property on terms and also make a good rate of return for your trouble, here are your steps. The first step you do, you get on Craigslist and you say, we got a gorgeous property that we will consider. If you can qualify for owner financing and you have a good job, just call us, and that's step one. You gather some leads, and then you ask them some very basic questions over the phone, and then they send them to an RMLO like yourself to do some, basically ability to repay rule and take a look at what they can do. And if it looks good, then they put their down payment down, they create the documentation, and they go through a title company or an attorney, and they sell their home on terms. And that's how you can get started if you're selling on terms. If you're buying on terms, I think it's a little harder. You need to get on Craigslist and say the following. Would you consider owner financing or rent to own on your house if you got full price for your house? That's all you got to say on Craigslist. If you had a FSBO or a landlord, if it's a landlord, you might want to say something like, if I gave you a 2-year lease, would you consider selling to me at the end of that lease for full price? Now, you're doing some fishing and some marketing when you do that, but we find that, you can find a great house that way if you're trying to buy on terms, and credit doesn't really matter as much as the ability to repay. That's the most important thing. That debt to earnings ratio, all those kinds of things is very, very important. In closing, do you have any other questions about or comments to make about millennials, people 25, 35 with a lot of student loan debt?
I would have to say that if they've got a good job and they've got a good prospect, they're working in the trade that they learned in college, go for it. See if you can get help with the down payment, or there's so many options. Find a real estate agent that understands finance, because that's where it's at, is finance. And don't accept no as an answer, and anything's possible. That's my comment.
I totally agree. Well, thanks for this recording on millennials, and check the links down below, and we'll be happy to help you any way we can. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
So what I'll do here